So you like the conflict. You're like, ooh, a puzzle. I can't
It
wait.
cannot be avoided in human relationships. It cannot be avoided. If you come to me as a couple and say we never fight, who checked out? Which one of y'all checked out? I didn't mean to make water come through your nose, but that's what I'm gonna ask you.
No.
If you want more money in the bank next year than you got right now, you in a conflict. You got to change some stuff. You can't avoid it. You got to accept it. It's a part of life.
Right.
You got to learn how to deal with it.
That's funny. People think that they stunt with their relationship. We never have problems. You see right through it.
Right.
Like somebody's
right.
gone.
Right. My wife likes quiet in the house. I'm waking up singing and all kind of stuff. We different. Right? We really different.
Oh man.
Right? So
Right.
you get to accept it. Self-acceptance. If I can accept myself, I can accept her. Right? But if I can't accept myself, I'm gonna have trouble accepting somebody else.
Fresh killer.
What up, tribe? What's up, tribe? That what you hear right now is the laughter of Gerald Chambers, who is a man who spent the better part of the last 3 decades working in the field of mental health, particularly with Black men, working around how to build stronger relationships, Black male-female dynamic. And when I say in the trenches, I mean West Oakland. I mean, he's worked with the court system, and he's done a lot to make sure that our community is being healed. And so I asked him to come on the show, and him being the good brother that he is, he showed up. So what's up, Mr. Chambers, the counselor, the author, the man of pride and valor? How are you?
Hey, Roger. I'm doing fine. That's a lot, man. It's only been like 26 years, too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I said the better part of the last 3 decades. Round up. I'm just saying. Yeah. All right. So I was looking over your website, and it's a great site, and it opened up with this quote. It said, "I am what Carl Jung referred to as a wounded healer. I stand at the intersection of psychotherapy and 12-step recovery." I was wondering if you could unpack that statement for us.
Oh, well, yeah, man, I'm a recovering person. I had to take care of my own wounds, and it was through trying to figure out what was going on with me and my family that I found out that I had an affinity for the work, working with others. And sometimes I think that we, as people, we go through things and we don't really understand why we have to go through it. But when you try to help someone else, then it becomes clear, why you had to go through what you went through, because you can use it to be helpful.
Okay. So you have found that in helping others, you are helping yourselves.
Yeah. And in helping myself, I could help others. Same thing.
Yeah. So I should be transparent and say that I met Mr. Chambers, Counselor Chambers, through going through your class back in the day when I was a young man.
Yeah.
And I got into a situation where I lost my temper. I lost my temper. But speaking of Black male-female dynamic, it was a situation where I went to pick up my child, who was then a baby, and got into a dispute with her mother. She wanted the child that weekend. We were both very young at this time. And basically, I'm giving the abbreviated version, but the police came. We're arguing, yelling, screaming, and the police came. A police officer came through, said, Hey, he immediately comes at me, puts his hands in my face. I'm already on 10, I'm on 12, I'm on 15. And once he put his hand on me, it just went to a very, 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 very bad place that we can say for a whole nother podcast. But one of the things that resulted from that incident was me going through your class. And of all the things that I had to do personally to rectify that situation, the only thing that brought something good was being in your class, because I was around, and I'm gonna give you your flowers right now, sir, because I was around other Black men who were healing and who were just as emotionally dead as I was and didn't know how to express their emotions, and were going through situations where they felt abused and tormented, but you can't say that out loud because that sounds very weak to say that. Um, and you were there in front of us, you having gone through similar situations, and we can tell. And it wasn't like just a counselor situation. You let us into your life and you let us into your world. And I'm going to say that I teach educate. I'm in education, right? All the people that follow this podcast know that. But I go through semesters where I feel like, oh goodness, I didn't reach anyone, or I have days where like, oh, that student, dropped the class. I wish I would have tried this approach. And because you go through that when you really care, right? And like, oh, I'm missing them, right? And you have those moments, and I'm sure you have those moments. But I want to tell you right now, before we go any further, that you impacted my life heavily. And here we are so many years later, and the topic of Black female relationships came up. I was like, I got to talk to Gerald, got to bring him on. So I want to say thank you, sir.
Well, you're welcome. You're
I want
welcome.
to say thank you. I want to say thank you. And then getting right back into it, what was your experience working with Black men around emotions? Period. That's the question. What was your experience like doing that work?
Well, um, let me go back.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, many Black men, including the Black man you're talking to here now,
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a lot of words for emotions.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that I had to learn. My family wasn't able to help me in that way.
Hmm.
And so my dad was kind of the strong, silent type. He didn't talk about his feelings. He didn't know how. He didn't have a full range of emotions. I think he experienced a full range, but he couldn't communicate a full range.
Mm.
So I grew up like that. You're only as good in relationships as the relationships you've been in. So I was kind of in a place where I was emotionally illiterate. And so I kind of lived my life acting out how I
Whoa,
felt.
whoa, 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 whoa. I just see a gem. I'm sorry. Emotionally illiterate. Is that
Yeah.
you coined? Did you make that
No,
up?
I didn't coin that term. That's just what I was. I don't know where it comes from, but that's accurately describes what
Whoa.
I went through and what many men go through. The word for it is alexithymia, no words for feelings. Alexithymia,
Oh
no
my
words for
goodness.
feelings.
Okay. Emotionally illiterate. Okay. I'm sorry.
Alexithymia.
Proceed, sir.
And
Yes.
so many men that I work with come into it's a psychoeducation group that I operate, a 52-week program for men who have been convicted of spousal battery, or even, you don't have to hit anybody to be in this group. As you described, a loud argument,
Mm-hmm.
scare a neighbor hears and calls the police come to the house, and you can end up being in my group. 52 weeks, a whole lot of money in between, and you got to try to learn about how to manage your conflict tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so working with men around that, it takes time. That's why it's 52 weeks. It's not shorter, because you just can't move too quick on it, because it takes a little while to learn. And some men respond and some men don't. Some men will never do the thing that got them arrested simply because they got arrested. But then you also have criminal types who have been breaking the law, who don't have much respect for women, who are more exploitive in their relationships. And so they would be more like catch me if you can. So a lot of men that are required to come to the group don't come because they're not afraid of the law. And so it would be just like catch me if you can. And so working with, all men that come to the group are a little bit different. So one of the things we're trying to do is set an atmosphere so that men can relax and feel like they can talk about feelings, talk about what they're, because that really is a big part of why people get into conflict, is that they can't talk about feelings. Okay. And a complaint, the conflict basically starts when you have a stated difference with someone. And so this is a lot different. These two statements are really, really different. You're controlling me and I feel controlled. Those are two different, really different statements. Now, the first one, if you happen to say that to someone, they're automatically going to get defensive. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. And that can start the escalation to a place of where you're yelling, screaming, and becoming really dysregulated. Now, the second one is a statement about your feelings. I can feel controlled without you controlling me.
Okay.
That's a really big difference.
Okay.
Like I'll give you another example. When I come in and I see dishes in the sink, I think you've been sitting on your ass all day. That's different than saying when I come home and see dishes in the sink, I feel frustrated.
So you're saying the latter is how we should communicate with our significant others?
If you can.
Okay.
I would strongly suggest it. You can do whatever you want, and you can be successful communicating any way you do it. But I would say that second way of communicating will probably keep you out of foul trouble. It might not, but we're gonna try to help you.
Keep you out of foul trouble.
Get in foul trouble. Now I'm not making light of what people are going through in relationships either. Women are catching hell in some of these relationships, but so are men.
Right.
And so I'm looking at conflict between people. And in a conflict, when you came through the group, it wasn't okay for a man to say that the woman was doing anything. If you said that she was doing something, that she did this or she did that, most groups would typically put you out because they would assume that you weren't taking responsibility for your part in it. And so I'm a little bit different. I look at the conflict as in a conflict, any conflict, both parties are doing something. And so she is doing something, but she doesn't necessarily deserve to go to the hospital or wind up with a swollen eye or a busted lip, nor do you. But both parties are doing something. And you see that in all kinds of conflicts, even in international conflicts, Israel and Palestine. You see Palestine throws rocks and Israel drops bombs. And so both parties are doing something.
Another difference, it wasn't 52 weeks. I didn't have to go to it for 52 weeks at that time. And I think like my situation wasn't, it wasn't domestic. It was an incident with a police officer. That was That was my situation. But I wanted to. Why is it so hard for us as Black men to express our emotions?
Well, there are a lot of different reasons, but one of the big reasons is because we're not too far away from being slaves. Massa, I don't feel good today. I'm feeling a little depressed. If you don't get your ass out in that field, there was no need for it, right? So a lot of times we're raised by people that don't express feelings well. Sometimes we don't value feelings. And male socialization is such that men don't talk about feelings. Be strong, be silent, be a tough guy.
Right. And I would take that even further to say that as Black men, our feelings have never really mattered.
Right.
No one cares what a Black man feels about something.
Right. Men in general, black men in particular.
Oh yeah,
Right, right,
absolutely. And so it's like, why bother? You know, when
right.
we're learning how to become emotionally illiterate, where when no one can comprehend anyway, like no, it doesn't. It's not going to change anything.
Right. A lot of times we're like I say, we're only as good in relationships as the relationships we've been in. So if you have the misfortune of being parented by someone who is stressed,
Mhm.
poor, uh, um, not very emotionally aware, not very conversationally aware, then you're only going to be as good as that person that you're around until there's some sort of intervention. You meet someone else that can help you talk about those thoughts and feelings.
So you said, I know she said the misfortune, and you said that your father was the strong silent type, right? My father was too. I didn't grow up with my father in the household, but that was his nature. I think most guys were that way then. Uh,
Hmm.
Now more is being asked of us, right?
Sure.
And you, of course, you're the specialist. You can, of course, disagree at any time with all of your research and all the great things that you've done. But
Hmm.
but from my perspective, it's like men are being asked to be emotionally available,
Yeah, sure.
right? Like this is new, okay?
Right,
And
right.
so, but I wanted to get back to your father and my father and probably me, and to a large degree, well, I can't speak for you, but definitely me. I'm, I'm trying to get better at conveying emotions because it seems as though that's what's required of me now. But is that necessarily a problem to be a man of action, to be a masculine man? Is there something wrong with that?
I don't think so. I think where the problem is we confuse masculinity with like destruction and anger and intimidation and violence.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with being a man.
Mhm.
And I don't think expressing emotions will make you feminine or make you weak or anything like that. Actually, it can help you actually be stronger.
Okay. Um, all right. So, hmm, in a way that you could express your emotions in a masculine way is some of the examples that you presented, right? Like when when I come home and the dishes aren't clean, it makes me feel frustrated and things of that. Is there anything else that a man can do to express himself to his significant other or his children or whomever in a way that doesn't seem like in a way that doesn't seem weak?
Well, weak is a very interesting kind of way of looking at it, and an interesting word. Because expressing your emotions doesn't necessarily make you weak. But if
Mhm.
I believe that it makes me weak, then I just look for those situations that confirm what I believe.
Okay.
But being able to express your emotions can bring your partner closer to you and your children closer to you. It can
Right.
help you enjoy life more. Your emotions are a type of intelligence. If you can't feel that the stove is hot from without touching it, you're back here and you can feel that the stove is hot before you actually touch it, you can stay out of a lot of trouble. If you can't feel that, you're going to damage yourself a lot.
Mm.
And so now the other thing about feelings is that when you are at the bottom of the socioeconomic hierarchy, when you're not educated, you don't have, you're poor in the United States, you got a problem. So who wants to feel, right? Who wants to feel stuff? Who wants to feel it is to re-experience it, right? So who would want to feel it? So if you're at the bottom of the socioeconomic hierarchy, you're going to try to do things to uh, numb feelings, not talk about feelings, not experience feelings. And so that pretty much keeps you at the bottom of the hierarchy, because if you can't feel something's not right, then you can't do anything about it. So once you start getting high or doing things to avoid feelings, you typically stay stuck. I
Mm.
can I can give you a root canal because I'm going to block the feelings with anesthesia, and you're going to sit in a chair. But once you start feeling stuff, then you start moving and taking some action.
Hmm.
So if you're already in pain, a lot of men are in pain for a lot of different reasons, then we don't want to experience feelings. That makes sense.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I remember a specific situation when I was in your class and you asked a brother, and just this, I mean, we I think we've done a good job of setting up the class and what the class looks like. But I was, when I say, you know, it was just brothers, it was some brothers there that was straight off the turf. I mean, there was some brothers there that
Yeah.
just like straight off the grind, just coming in like, "I have time for class," you know what I'm saying? It's time for class. We're like
Yeah.
rocks in their mouth, all the grimy. When I say
Sure.
grimy, I mean grimy, but shout out to all of us because we were there, like we showed up, right?
Right.
But I remember you were working with this brother, good-hearted brother. Um, but you asked the question to him, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it was something around around um, what does it feel like when your child asks for shoes and you can't afford them? And he said his response was, I probably just, give her like $20, be like, go to the candy house, get whatever you want, right? But you was like, no, but what does it feel like at that moment when she asks for something and you cannot provide it for her? And he went in another direction. He was just like, I give my kids whatever I can. I go all out for my kids. And then you stayed on him. And I mean, what, it was such a tedious process. And I'm watching it like, whoa, like, and finally he was just like, bad. You know what I mean? But like, you had to really pull and pull and pull for him to say that. And I'm looking at it, it was an epiphany for me. It was just like, whoa, that's how guarded we are. That's how
Yeah.
detached we are from our emotions. I didn't judge him. I'm like, whoa, that's me. Like
Yeah.
that's me. And it was
And that's one of the struggles we have in our relationships. That's what our partners are asking us to do, connect. See, it's one thing to um, give a description of something, or to give an account. That's report talk. But what we want to move it to is rapport talk, where you're not just telling me what happened, but let's attach the feelings to it, so we can connect with each other, because we can connect with each other emotionally, even if the story is different. And that's part of that no words for feelings. That's part of alexithymia, that where I ask you a question about how you feel and you give me a description of something, and I want to try to help you come back to the feelings. I feel inadequate. I feel vulnerable. I feel to see all that stuff. The anger is secondary. Feelings under it: guilty, ashamed, isolated. I cover those feelings up with anger, because it's more appropriate for a man to be angry than it is to be guilty or ashamed or embarrassed. So anger is used as a form of image control.
how?
Because I'm covering up the feelings that make me appear vulnerable.
Mm,
See, on where I come from, 80th and International, it's not a good idea to appear vulnerable.
mm,
I want
mm,
to, and men get points for being crazy or being angry.
mm,
Our peers will back off of us, leave us alone, not question us, that kind of stuff. And so
mhm.
we can get away with being emotionally, um, let's just say, hurt, and not have anybody question us. But at the same time that they don't bother us, we can't get the help we need either.
Hmm.
So we cover, we defend against vulnerability. We cover it up. We're taught to do that. And men correct other men. Don't act like a sissy, boy.
Mm,
You act like a little. And if you come back here crying, I'm gonna beat your ass,
mm,
right?
mm,
That kind of stuff. That's how we learn how to hide our feelings.
mm, mm.
Men
And
policing other men.
right. how does that manifest in our relationships with our women?
It's a lonely place.
Hmm.
It's a lonely place. We're trying to connect, but we don't know how to connect. And a lot of times there's an expression, man does not live by bread alone. Like when I get into it with her, I point to you. Sometimes we can point to, well, you see the car you drive, you see the clothes you wear in the house we live in, right? That's why I'm not spending time with you. That's not why we're not doing this. I got to try to provide, but we don't live by bread alone. Your partner might just want to walk down the street with you and hold your hand, or might just want to look at a movie with you, or might want to connect with you.
Hmm.
And so if you can't do that, it makes it difficult to be in a relationship.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Um, and of course, you're working with brothers around just that, right?
Yeah, just like the group, we're not all the same,
Hmm.
and some people have different capacities to do different things, and we're trying to find out what the guys do well and get them to continue doing that as we try to add more to whatever their skill set is or whatever their repertoire is.
Okay. All right. In terms of, so I spoke earlier about my situation being being a young father,
Hmm.
uh, just having finished college
Hmm.
and going to pick up my child, and lo and behold, my child is not there, and her mother's not there, and I got to go through this whole thing, and my goodness, I ended up, losing my temper, and like the worst day of my life, right? But I wanted to talk about this. Uh, I wanted to talk about the story of a man not being able to see his child, and why that story isn't told, right? We know about the story of the deadbeat father in the Black community. We know about the stories of the households being led by single parents. Almost oftentimes that means single mothers. But
Hmm.
when I think about validating the experience of the Black man, in order to bring us both together. I don't
Hmm.
want anyone to misinterpret what I'm saying right now, because I love Black women. We need to work together. But I think in order for us to work together, both sides have to be out there. Okay.
Hmm.
So we know about the story of the man that's just being reckless and having babies all over the place and not taking care of those children. But we don't tell the story of the women who have children and don't let the father of the child see the child.
Hmm.
I know a lot of men that have gone through that. I've gone through that. I know you know a lot of men who have gone through that,
Yeah.
but that's not part of the discussion. And I was wondering, what's your take on that, and why isn't that a part of the discussion? And don't we need to discuss that in order to heal?
Well, it is a part of the discussion, but it all depends on where you go to find it. Like I'm on the Alameda County Fatherhood Initiative, and we're trying to make sure that children have fathers, and so we're having that. We got a thing called Cafe Dads, where, and this is available to any father in Alameda County for free, where a father can come in and discuss issues that he's having with parenting, with his baby's mother, and all that, and we'll try to support.
Plug it.
Uh,
Let's plug it real quick. Cafe. What is it called? Is it a
Cafe
website?
Dads. Cafe Dads. It's a part of Alameda County's Fatherhood Initiative.
Okay, so just
And
look
you
that
can
up
just
on.
look that up. Yeah, you can just look that up online.
So go ahead.
And
So
so
you.
we do talk about that. But now here's the thing, from my point of view as a therapist, and I'm working on interpersonal conflict, right?
Mhm.
So some women, not all women, uh, prevent prevent dads from seeing children, but some women use children as an instrument, and some men use children as an instrument against each other, and
Mhm.
it's part of their conflict tactics.
Mhm.
What they do when they're having a disagreement with their partner. Not a good idea. you
Mhm.
know because the kids can deal with separation, divorce, living in separate houses. They can deal with all that, But what they can deal with is the tension between the mother and father, and feeling like dad or mom is going to destroy each other, are going to destroy each other. They have trouble dealing with that. That creates problems that you're going to have to deal with later on down the line. Father deprivation, mother deprivation is a serious problem in our society, and it can be systematic to systemic, because as you can see, the children being separated at the border are being separated from their parents. And so there's always been sort of a plan in the United States to separate families of color. This is part of the legacy of slavery. We were sold. Right? And so one thing that we know is that mammals are different than other animals. When we get frightened or afraid or overwhelmed, we don't, as a first course of action, we don't burrow holes, we don't climb trees, we don't necessarily run. What we do is turn to another mammal, another primate, a mother or father. We turn to. You watch a baby gets scared, it runs back to mother, it runs back to father. Right? Now, when we can't do that, that creates a problem in the personality that we got to work out. Years from now, we have to work that out. And in fact, that person would be more susceptible to using drugs than anybody else.
Which person?
The person that can't turn to a human being. We're going to turn to something. If we can't turn to a human being for support, we're going to turn to drugs for support. We're going to turn to something. We bond. It's important for us.
Okay. So you work with the courts, you work with Alameda County, have for a long time, family court and criminal court as well. Would you say that the court system, when it comes to family court, is biased against men?
It has been. It has been. And we're trying to change that. We're trying to change the court. We're trying to get information. It's just recently, within the last number of years that we've even recognized domestic violence. So it's been biased against women too, right? But it's also been biased against men in terms of thinking men that don't want to parent, can't parent, leaning toward women to have full custody, limiting the custody of men. All those things are real. Those things are real, and it's not fair. So I'm into prevention because we don't have a good track record of coming in contact with the system. The system doesn't work for us very well. So we want to try to prevent a loud argument or an argument that gets out of control where the police are knocking on the door. Because once you get to that point, you're powerless. And you can end up in shot. You can get shot in the United States if you're Black just by walking down the street. So, of course, if you are in an argument with somebody and the police come out, you got a chance of getting injured, arrested. And we just witnessed, George Floyd getting stomped on and his neck crushed and oxygen tank and all that. So we want to try to avoid the system where we can, by learning to advocate and control ourselves and have better relationships.
Absolutely. I don't think that people know the story of what a man has to go through just to establish visitation.
Sure.
I can tell you that my goodness, it was so exhausting. It almost destroyed me. That coupled with the interaction that I stated before, and just trying to see my child on a regular basis. And I remember the first thing that I had to do was file paperwork in court, but I remember I had to pay, I think it was like $500 or something at the time to establish me as the father in court. That was an insane amount of money for me at that time.
Right.
That was a lot of money. And but not just the money, but the idea, Gerald, the idea that in order for me to see my child, I have to pay. Are you familiar with Mark Twain? Are you familiar with the story? What is that? Huckleberry? Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer. And Nigger Jim was the character's name, and one time he talked about buying his wife and then saving enough money to buy his children. And so that was a revelatory thing for the protagonist to get him to be opposed to slavery, because he was just like, buy your children? What an absurd, like, this is really happening. He has to save money to buy his children.
Yeah.
And here I am, and we're supposed to be free, and I had to buy my child. It was the most traumatizing ordeal that I had to go, and just to think that it happens all of the time. And I know brothers who are literally insane because they love their kids and can't be a presence in their life. And I first blame the courts, as you stated, for systematically tearing us apart and pitting us against one another. But just that story, there are so many people out there who hate their fathers,
Yeah.
but they never knew the story from their father's perspective.
Right.
And they never got to know that. And they just took one side of it.
Right.
So when I think about, making us whole and healing us as a community, that part has to get out. I had to pay, and then I sat down after I paid for all of this, and we sat down. I think we went to mediation. Bam, we getting the paperwork. This person that worked for the court, a brother at that, my God, he recommended it was that I have my daughter, I think, one night every 2 weeks. And I'm like, that's not enough. Even the mother of my child, my ex, even she was like, that's not
Right.
fair to him.
It's not fair to the kid either.
It's not fair to anyone.
Right.
It's not fair to anyone. But for him to, but do you understand me? I'm paying for this.
Right.
Not
Right.
just that, I'm trying to break this cycle.
Right.
And when you try to break this cycle, you think about the whole deadbeat thing and people abandoning their children. And you say, well, that's not going to be me. I'm going to be in my child's life. And then lo and behold, you face so much resistance.
Sure.
Why am I facing resistance? Why am I not welcome? Why am I facing all of this pushback if indeed we value fathers in our community? And it's like,
well, we value some fathers. Some. We don't value all fathers. We value some. And I think that's what you experience. Many times white people have a very different experience of the system than we do.
Of course.
So yeah, and that's what's kind of confusing. Why is it different for this person than it is for me? But again, if you got a black body in the United States, you got a problem. Now, that's not anything that we can't overcome, but oppression and racism and all that stuff is very real. And how the system works against us sometimes is very real for many people. Because, even going back to being in a quote unquote DV group, if you got enough money, you don't even go to a DV group. You can plead out or do something else. You got a lawyer and all that kind of stuff. You don't come to my group. Those guys don't get to my group. It's mostly people of color. It's mostly poor guys that come through. Mostly. It's changing a little bit now, but back when you came through, it was mostly just poor people that were interfacing with the system like that.
Right. Now, back to us and fathers and Black folk, it's been what, at least 50 years since two-parent households were a norm in the Black community. Is that about 50 years, maybe more?
There's something. There's still a lot of Black families, but yeah, it's changing. A lot of pressure on the Black family.
How do we, as a community, go back to what is the process by which we need to undergo in order to make solid two-parent families a thing again in our community?
I don't know if they're gonna be a thing again like they were back in the day, because the situation has changed. A lot of things have changed. So one of you mentioned something earlier. You mentioned that it was a lot different now to basically be in a relationship than it was in the past, and that's true. And
How-
the reason why that's true is because women have gained so much freedom.
Mhm.
They're educated, they have their own money, they are fully self-supporting. They don't really need us in the way that they have maybe needed us in the past. But now that doesn't mean that we can't be with women. It means that now we have new roles. And so this is very similar to what we see happening in our society. White folks are scapegoating people of color because they're losing, people of color are gaining rights and showing up in places where we haven't normally showed up. And so the main thing that both white people and men have to do is be willing to explore our new roles. See, now it's really important for men to be emotionally intelligent because women don't necessarily need you to be the strong, silent type. She got her own money. She needs you to be cooperative now. She needs you to be able to communicate. She needs you to be able to be supportive, change a diaper, run a vacuum cleaner, cook a pizza. She needs you to be able to do, women are still working 40 hours and doing the majority of the housework. That'll start a conflict. So we have new roles. And as long as it's so tough now for a man. A man can be a woman today.
Mhm.
That's a freedom. You can be
Mhm.
any kind of man you want. You got to decide for yourself. And so
Mhm.
that places a lot of responsibility on us to figure out what is our role now.
Mhm.
And we can't, and men are basically confused about what that is. We don't know if we want to be John Wayne or Pee Wee Herman. I mean, we can decide that for ourselves. I can't tell you which one to be. Just pick one and go for it, right?
I wasn't ready for Pee Wee. I wasn't ready for Pee Wee Herman, man.
But my point is, we can't coexist.
Mhm.
We can coexist. We can have dynamite relationships. I don't know that we need to try to, sometimes Black families, we're families apart a lot of times. And that
Mhm.
can be a totally cool family. Dad might not live in a home.
Mhm.
Mom and dad might not live together. That can be totally cool. The main thing is let's lower the anger and the resentment and the conflict and the scariness and the abuse. Let's lower that. Let's work together, even as a family apart.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying that families are apart are the way to go. If we can maintain a family, let's maintain it. But a family is like it can be configured any kind of way.
Mhm.
We don't have to be like the Cleavers. It can be, we can do what we need to do for ourselves as long as we support our children and support each other.
Mhm. Do you think that that's a negative thing, that we don't need one another in the way that we used to? Specifically, women don't need us as Black men uh, in the way that they used to. Black women make more money than Black men and are more educated than Black men.
Now, me personally, I don't have a problem with it. Like in my family, my wife is, she's famous. She does her own thing. I'm not Ike Turner. I think it's a sign of my relationship that she's thriving,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? She's
Mhm.
thriving.
Mhm.
I'm thriving
Mhm.
because we have a relationship. I don't get I've had to learn how not to get jealous over the things she does. I got to find the stuff that I do. I could explore my role. That's what
Mhm.
I would encourage anybody to do. There's
Mhm.
plenty out there for all of us. But if I'm angry and resentful and frightened, you shrink and you
Mhm.
don't take the risks in life that you would normally take. Now,
Mhm.
one of the things that allows us to take that risk is a solid relationship. The
Mhm.
infant learns how to play the piano because someone introduces it, and then they encourage him to play. And then once he realizes that he can get positive attention for playing the piano, he plays on his own. And
Mhm.
then you got something.
Mhm.
So that's the same thing with me. Is if I got a solid relationship, I'm willing to go into the marketplace and get out. Same thing with my wife.
Mhm.
We feel supported.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm encouraging. I'm encouraging people to uh, take care of their mental health.
Mhm.
Understand that your relationship is as important as food and water.
Mhm.
It's important. Learn how to take care of it. Number one relationship between you and yourself. Then after that is you and somebody else.
Okay. Um, okay. So it sounds as though you're saying that all that strong black father of the household putting it down, you know, whatever the archetype is, you know, of that from the 1950s and 40s and previous generations, that's not going to be a reality ever again. We need to learn how to reevaluate our masculinity so we fit in. So we fit into the equation.
Well, I don't know. I don't know necessarily that we got to fit in, but I think you got to define masculinity for yourself. I think you're being strong right now by presenting information to people that can be helpful. This is what men do.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, you are being a man by talking about your feelings. You're being a
Yeah.
man by talking about your history.
Mm-hmm.
You're being a man by talking to another man about what it's like to be a man. There
Yeah.
ain't nothing more courageous to me than that.
Right. Right.
I get tricked into thinking, I'm supposed to smoke a cigarette and ride a horse and carry a gun and all that, but that's not where it's at.
Here's my thing, right? So I'm on you. I have you on, man. I'm really picking your brain because I think that the primary issue that we need to address as a community is the poor dynamic between Black men and Black women. I go back and forth between that and homicide, but I think that the poor relationship between Black men and Black women leads to homicide. So I'm gonna go ahead and center that as the number one thing that we need to address. And I don't think that we're addressing it. I think that oftentimes our agendas are sabotaged by outside groups and whatever, people trying to exploit us and use us as pawns and whatnot. But this is something that you specialize in. I just want to know, how do we bring it back? How can we love one another more and coexist? I don't think that we're coexisting very well right now.
Well, we're doing better than you might think, right?
Mhm.
Because it could be a lot worse.
Not you, Gerald. You're good.
No, I mean
You're
in general,
married. You're
right?
cool. I'm talking about the rest of
Well, no. Well, this is what I'm saying. In light of what we have had to deal with. See, nobody else on the planet really went through American chattel slavery like African Americans.
Mhm.
So, in light of what we had to deal with, I think we're doing okay. Now, could it be better? Sure. But we got to acknowledge what we are doing too. We are, we lead some industries.
Mhm.
They didn't want us in basketball, they didn't want us in baseball, they didn't want us in rap, they didn't want us in law, and we got in. They didn't want us in the media, but we got in, right? And we are doing some things. And so I think the main thing we got to try to do is pick up some skills, right? It's not just about protest. Protest is important, but pick up some skills. And one of the skills is some emotional intelligence, understanding how you feel, communicate that. There's nothing wrong with anger. We need to be angrier. We just don't need to be as destructive.
Oh man.
Just like most couples need to have more conflict, not less conflict. There are things you got to fix. You got to fix some stuff in the relationship. That requires that you're going to be in a conflict with the person. I need to know that. I don't
Yo.
agree with my wife on everything,
Uh-huh.
but I can say, babe, we're in a conflict right now. And the
Uh-huh.
minute I say that, I start correcting my behavior. And some good decisions come out of that. Really good decision. Look, it's a democracy, right? I
Yeah.
don't get what I want. I get what I can live with. I'm not a dictator. It's not my way or the highway. I need to hear what she thinks about things, right? that to me is courageous. That's strong. That's the new manhood, right?
We need to get on your hype. Okay, wow. Hey man, like, do you think this is mind blowing? Now you're mellowed out now. You've been around for a while. Do you think that a young 26-year-old whippersnapper can say in the heat of an argument, babe, we're in a conflict right now? And then I'm assuming with your wife, how does your wife respond when you say, we're in a conflict.
She says, no, we're not. Right? But here's the funny thing about that. She doesn't necessarily need to know that we're in a conflict. I need to know. I need to acknowledge it. I'm not agreeing with you right now.
Uh-huh.
And then she starts to manage her behavior, and I manage mine.
Okay.
And we have some doozies. We have some real conflicts. My wife is very different than me.
Uh-huh.
We have some good conflicts, but we use the conflict differently. It brings us closer together. I'm not hating on her. You know?
Man. Oh man.
And I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I came into treatment. I didn't know that until I started working.
Oh.
See, because we're going to be in conflict. A lot of the stuff you arguing with your partner over, you can't solve it anyway. It has to be managed. The same things you arguing with her with today, you're going to be arguing with her over 10 years from now. And so I have to manage my behavior. It's the best thing in the world. Correct my conflict tactics. I don't have to get mad at her because I disagree with her.
Okay.
I didn't know that because that was my definition of manhood. I was trying to win arguments. I ain't trying to win arguments. I'm trying to learn. Why do you feel like that? What makes you tell me more about that? Why do you think we ought to go this way? And usually we come up with a pretty good decision. And we haven't got divorced. We haven't left each other. We haven't been separated. Sex is still good. You know, that's the important stuff right there to get being together, right?
Important.
I like my wife. You won't hear me say nothing negative about my wife.
Yeah, that's
I don't talk behind her back. I don't do that for her. I do that for me. That's in my best interest.
Right.
Here's the thing. Don't pee in a well you both got a drink out of. Don't do that.
Right. But Gerald, this is great. This is fantastic. Gerald, how long did it take you to get? Okay, how about this? Do you think? Hold on. Before you respond, do you think that this is a matter of you getting treatment, or just you getting older, getting wiser, and being like, I can't win these fights?
It's all of that.
Okay.
All of it contributes. Look, when Black men get together and we talk about being Black men, magic things happen. Okay. Anybody listening, any man listening, don't be afraid of mental health. We won't go to the doctor. Our physical health is terrible often. Our mental health is even worse. We won't even know we're depressed, or we got post-traumatic stress, or we're anxious, or we're having difficulties. We won't even acknowledge it. It's okay. Help is available. Don't be afraid of it. Get yourself some. It's not a bad idea to go back through your childhood and take a look at it. That's not a bad idea. It can really help you in relationships. You don't have to have a miserable, terrible relationship. You don't have to have that. You can have a really good relationship, and you don't have to agree with her on everything. The guys are in my group, a lot of times they're surprised when I say, you guys need to be angrier, not less angry, because there are things wrong in your life.
Yeah.
You need to fix it, right? Yeah. And when you go back, you're going to have more conflict with her because you're going to be able to say, I don't agree with you on everything. A lot of times, a lot of the problems result from us not saying anything. We're trying to avoid conflict, and we end up wearing it. It's got to be safe enough for you to be different than your partner.
Gerald, I hear you. Allow me to push back. I don't know if women want to, Black women, we're talking about Black women here. And I don't know that they want to be around a guy that's always talking about, when you did this, it made me feel like this. I don't like this. I don't know that I don't know that they are ready to receive us emotionally like that. Isn't that a hurdle?
Well, that's true. You come into the group, right? You got into it with your girl. You come into the group, and I say to you, there is no guarantee that she's going to like you anymore after this group. You're going to be different. She might not like you. But what we want to try to do is prevent you from going to jail. You might have to find another partner. You start coming in and getting some new ideas, you might find out that you can't be with this particular person. There's no guarantees. This is a journey here, right? But you end up happier and with the right person and being able to coexist with this person that you may have a child with, or you may be going through something with. I can't guarantee you anything, but we want you to be okay, right? Now this thing of women might not like me if I begin talking about my feelings. It may take, my family didn't trust me when I first came back. They didn't trust me. They had organized around my abusiveness. So they expected abusiveness.
When you first came back from?
When I started coming back from going to treatment, when I started interacting with them after going to treatment, they didn't trust me. But here's the thing, you don't do that for them. You do it for you. I'm not doing any of this for anybody else. This is in my best interest to take care of my mental health, to not get into a abusive relationship with myself or anybody else. That's my interest. And then they come around after time. And here's the other thing. You want to keep your hands to yourself, and what you say to people you want to be careful with, because once you lose trust, it takes years to get it back, if at all. It's a very difficult thing to get back. You really got to earn it. 26 years, I have not put my hands on anybody. I have not cursed anybody out like that. I have not taken all the money out of the bank account that I built up. My kids can trust me. My ex-wife, we can talk about things. We're a family apart. We can be in the same room together. I'm proud of that. I don't care if anybody else is proud. I'm proud of it, right? I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that my kids say, hey, Daddy, I like it when we all get together. Yeah, me too. That's something to be proud of, right? A family apart. I could be skiing. Look, I could be skiing on the Swiss Alps. When the stuff hits the fan over there, they're going to call me. And they're calling the right person. I used to resent it. Why you guys call me? Why you guys call me only when there's a problem? Well, they do the same thing I do. I call the person that can help me. And I had to just kind of change my thinking about it. They're calling the right person. They don't have to call me every day. When something hits the fan, they'll call me. I'll know. And then I can try to help. Right?
How long did you have to be consistent before you earned their trust?
I got to be consistent every single day. How long? Today I got to be consistent.
So what I mean is that at some point you had lost their trust and then you gained it back. I'm saying, how long did that take for you to gain the trust back, the trust of your family?
Well, it's not like I got it back. It's like I have to continue working on it, is my point.
Okay.
It takes time for them to invite me back over or want to be around me. That took years, right? But now here's the thing. It wasn't their trust I got back. I got back my own trust. Now, remember, I had kind of a double problem. I was abusive, but I also had a substance use problem, right? And I'm unsupervised. I haven't used anything in 26 years. So if I can't trust myself, it don't make any difference if you trust me or not. I need to be able to, I'm unsupervised. You don't know if I'm going to get off this show we got going on now and go smoke some crack or go to the stroll or anything like that. I got to know I'm not doing that, right? And my relationships tend to work better in a stable environment. If there's no problem in here, there ain't no problem out here. So that's the way I look at it. No excuses, right? She didn't make me do nothing. She can say some stuff, say something out the side of her neck. That's okay. That's her. That's not me. And sometimes it's hard. It's a conflict. It's hard when she calls me on something, but I've learned that the conflict is, here's the thing. In a conflict, you learn the most important stuff. She'll tell you stuff she won't never tell you until she get mad at you. And then just follow it. Babe, I didn't know you felt like that. Tell me more about that. Now I got to be strong, right? That's what I'm talking about, strength.
Mhm.
I got to be strong enough to be able to take that.
Right.
I didn't know you felt like that. How long have you felt like that? Is there
Mm.
anything else you want me to stop doing? Don't let me be the last one to know you got a problem with me, right? Because when I was going through my abusive stage, I was the last one to know. The kids knew, the neighbors knew, my ex-wife knew. I was the last one to know. I pull into the driveway, the kids like, oh god damn, here come dad. You don't want to be that dude. Oh, look. A woman can find an abusive guy just by walking down the street.
Mm.
What she can't find is an emotionally intelligent guy. She can't find that. And she might reject you for it,
Mm.
but you'll still be better off.
Mhm.
Right? So anyway,
Do you relish conflict now?
conflict is important. You find out the most important thing. You can use it. If you can solve conflicts on the job, you're gonna get a promotion.
So
If
you
you can,
like the conflict, you're like, ooh, a puzzle. I can't
it
wait.
cannot be avoided in human relationships. It cannot be avoided. If you come to me as a couple and say we never fight, who checked out? Which one of y'all checked out? I didn't mean to make water come through your nose, but that's what I'm gonna ask you.
No.
If you want more money in the bank next year than you got right now, you in a conflict. You got to change some stuff. You can't avoid it. You got to accept it. It's a part of life.
Right.
You got to learn how to deal with it.
That's funny. People think that they stunting with their relationship. We never have problems. You see right through it.
Right.
Like somebody's
Right.
gone.
Right. My wife likes quiet in the house. I'm waking up singing and all kind of stuff. We different. Right? We really different.
Oh man.
Right? So
Right.
you get to accept it. Self-acceptance. If I can accept myself, I can accept her. Right? But if I can't accept myself, I'm gonna have trouble accepting somebody else. So I don't have like a perfect relationship. I got a good enough relationship. It's good enough.
Wow, is that okay? Is that
Sure. Your parents weren't perfect parents. They good enough, right? Yeah, no such thing as perfection.
that sounds, I don't know, that sounds like bad. Like the relationship part sounds, this is good enough. Like, I don't know, is that
It's good. I enjoy it. I'm grateful for it. Not one day goes by and I'm not grateful, but it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect.
I got you.
You know, a rose has both the rose and the thorns on it. It ain't perfect,
Right.
but it's perfect in that it has both. Everybody's got both. See, that's kind of the problem in relationship. I haven't explored my dark side. And when I start exploring my dark side, I start having more compassion for myself and other people. That's why mental health and therapy can be very good, right?
Hmm. Could you tell us about this book, The Pocket Anger Management?
Pocket anger manager.
Manager.
That was my notes. That was my notes from early on when I was working. It probably needs to be updated. It's still cool though.
It's still for sale, right?
Yeah. I still got it. I'm parking lot. I'm doing like what they say, parking lot pimping. I don't have distribution. I only got one. I'm probably gonna write another one. But it was cool, and it still is cool. You would get something out of it if you got it, and I can still get you one.
People can't buy it online.
Somebody's bootlegging it out there, right? Somebody got some. I was pushing it at first, and then somebody turned them in, and so somebody's selling it online. But you can get one from me. Yeah, it's cool. I'll write another one. I got that hip hop in me. I was trying to do like a Too Short.
Sell it out the trunk.
Yeah, I was trying to do like Short Dog. I still got a lot of that in me. Right?
All right. My goodness, sir, I definitely appreciate you sitting down with us. And is there anything that you want to say to the people in closing? I know you have a YouTube channel. You have some things.
Yeah, I don't promote too much. I ain't on Facebook and all that stuff. I use YouTube because I make content for my group, right? But I don't use social media because I don't want to compare myself to other people, right? That's the source of unhappiness, right? We evolved to only be around like 100 people, maybe in our whole life. Now you can compare yourself to 2,000 people in 1 hour and feel miserable. And all that content you make, Zuckerberg and them guys make all the money, you don't get nothing. I ain't messing with social media. I'm living, right? So anyway,
oh my goodness. Not with social media, I'm living. No. So I just got back on Facebook maybe a week and a half ago. I was off for since February of 2020.
Yeah. Good for you.
Off for that long. I still haven't returned to Instagram.
Good for you.
For these reasons, for what you just said.
Yeah, be careful with it.
You have to be careful. I mean, it's a good means of promoting, but when it comes to mental health and emotional well-being, which we've just spoken of, I think that social media is the devil.
Right, because it'll tell you don't need to be vaccinated. You know, you need to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
The science is there, right? Get vaccinated so you don't end up on a damn respirator.
This is a healthy conflict. I'm not vaccinated.
Right. Well,
this is the healthy conflict you were talking about.
Now I read the Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Nobody is scared of the vaccines than I am. But I also have sat down with the brother Gerald Chambers from the Native American Health Council. He's medical director, and he explained the science to me. And I'm at I got everything the coronavirus likes. I'm old. You know, I eat everything I want. Right. You know, life is good now. So I don't want to end up on a respirator. And I didn't have any problem. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not trying to do that.
Right.
But I took it.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to stay healthy. Right. Life is just now getting kind of good for me. I'm enjoying myself. I don't want to end up on a respirator. You do. I'm not trying to tell you how to run your airline.
No. Yeah. No, that's.
But nothing fell off me. I took it and nothing fell off me.
Nothing fell off. Nothing fell off yet.
Nothing fell off yet.
So far.
So far, so good. I don't want you to look for nothing though. If something's wrong, we're gonna fix it. But don't look for nothing. Don't look for nothing.
If something happens to you, Gerald, I'm gonna be like, oh.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep a good outlook.
No, it's all good. You're staying healthy, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all that stuff. Life is very good for you. I know you've been through a whole lot, and now it's at the point you're trying to stretch this thing all the way out.
I'm trying. I do a lot of savoring in my life.
That's awesome.
See, I didn't know what that word meant until I started getting into my emotions. Savoring is just enjoying the moment, being in the moment, and just enjoying what you got going on, being grateful. Wow. Right? Yeah.
Well, that's a great way to end our discussion. Thank you for talking to us, the tribe. About what I think is the most important issue in our community, which is Black male-female dynamic. And I hope you guys took notes. Hey, don't forget, it's free to like this. It's free to drop a comment, and it's also free to subscribe to the tribe. All right, thanks. This has been Mr. Gerald Chambers. I am Roger Porter. Peace, tribe. No.